Today we're talking about all the ridiculously dumb things that we've done while running, or before running, or after running, or things that we should have done but didn't do. Liam, you've got a lot more experience running, so this is going to be a very Liam heavy episode. I'll let you kick it off.
Well, yeah, you'd think with a lot of, I guess, experience and a long time running, I would have learned from my mistakes. But a pattern I noticed as I was preparing this list is I've done the same mistakes quite a bit and even recently continue to make the same mistakes. But yeah, I guess we can get into that. For
That's
me,
what they call
the
experience, right? Just more mistakes.
yeah, exactly. Learn from your mistakes the third time after you make them. Third time's a charm, something like that. But especially when I started out running, my biggest mistake was in terms of diet. Also, maybe not training enough. But I remember running my one of my first half marathons. I think it was my second. It was the at the time it's called Scotiabank Vancouver Half Marathon. Now it has a different name. I think just Vancouver Half. But it starts on UBC campus, and I happened to live on UBC campus at the time, right beside the start line. So it was like a 3 minute walk from my dorm to the start line, which now that I think about it, should not have been as difficult to get to the start line as it was. But basically, the night before, I decided to have half an entire pepperoni pizza around 11 p.m. I believe it was Delicio. We're not sponsored, but I actively chose to cook it myself, wait for it, think this is a good idea the entire time, eat half of it, and say, let's eat the other half tomorrow morning on my way to the start line. And I remember finishing this pizza as I was waiting in the line. And yeah, of course, I didn't train like that, so my body was not ready for that. So I really struggled and felt like I could potentially throw up at some times. I did not throw up, thankfully. But yeah, to have that kind of pizza before a half marathon you're already not prepared for was a big mistake.
I'm just wondering what the thought process was here. Was it like, I'm going to need lots of energy to run this half marathon? Pizza has energy, therefore, I'm going to eat half a pizza immediately before this half marathon and not wait to digest it.
It probably was related to that. You know, people keep saying carbo load, and that's all I listened to and forgot about the other aspects of running.
Like how long before the race you should carbo load.
Exactly. That's an important thing that you should all pay attention to, not 10 seconds before the race.
I find usually about an hour and a half before I can eat like a full meal, and then anything closer than that, then can eat a little bit. Usually I'll have, before a long run, I'll have like a protein bar and some fruit, especially like a banana or something. But if I eat like a bowl of noodles or something within like an hour before a race, it just feels terrible and slows me down.
Yeah. Yeah. I support and agree with, I guess, the night before, or some people say 2 days before is a good time to start and kind of ease your
Mm.
way into the carb blend. I guess there's science for different things, but definitely not right before, as we have talked about.
Yeah, I can see the argument for eating, a good serving of carbs the night before, because then you have time to absorb it. All right, my first in a series of running fails is I've talked about a few of these on the podcast before, so I won't go into a lot of detail about some of them. But doing the Singapore Marathon with very little actual running leading up to it. So I had picked up a pretty big work project, and I was busy on that for a month. And I was in Australia at the time. This is yeah, just before the Singapore Marathon. And there was good running around there, but I was just so swamped with this project. Like I was doing 10 to at least 12, yeah, sometimes like 14-hour days. I was lucky if I had enough time to go walk around for during my lunch or whatever. So I got like 2 runs in, and then uh, I had even gained a few kilos. Like if I stop running, I'll gain like a kilo a week for maybe 3 weeks. So 3 kilos heavier. My legs were a lot weaker, and I just wasn't in any shape to run. I remember by kilometer 18, I was already getting pretty drained. I was like, oh no, this is going to go on for a long time. And I tried to put earphones on and listen to music to hopefully get some energy that way. But it still took me a really long time to finish. And the last third or so was harder than the other ones. And this was only my second official marathon. Yeah, so I really wasn't prepared for it, and I regretted it. I guess what I could have changed was not taking on such a big workload in such a short amount of time. But that was a deadline, so I made a decision.
Yeah, and you finished. That's the main thing.
Yeah,
Finished your work and the marathon.
yeah. So mission
That's good.
accomplished.
Yeah, yeah, that's the important thing. But yeah, taking time to prepare is always a good idea. Easier said than done.
Yes. What's your next one?
Right, my next one is completely the opposite end of the spectrum. So I talked about
Mm.
eating way too much leading up to the start line. So this is last year in May, I believe. I don't remember the reasoning why, but for some reason, on about a 34 or 35-hour prolonged fast, eating nothing and drinking nothing but water, I decided to run a full marathon. And I'm not saying this is a good thing to do. I would like to clarify that many times. Don't do this. Um, Especially don't do what I'm about to say next. Is I spontaneously decided right after I started running, despite at this point having already run more than 100 full marathons and knowing well that this is not a good decision, because I felt good for the first kilometer, I thought today I should set a PB. I'm going to run the fastest marathon of my life. I had not eaten in about 34 hours. And on top of that, I was wearing shoes I'd never worn before. They were super shoes, were gifted to me by a friend. They don't really have my shoe size in Korea, but someone said, "Oh, we have like a couple old shoes lying around the house in your size. Do you want them?" I said, "Sure." And I got them like 2 days before this marathon. And I thought, "Whoa, these are like the carbon plates, blah blah blah." But they were used, so I don't know how used they were yet. And after I started running, I found out they were too narrow, so my toes also really hurt for a couple weeks. Anyways, it was, uh, I guess, greed in the moment, thinking super shoes can fix all my problems. Turns out food is also a great way to avoid problems. But yeah, I was on pace for the first while. It actually ended up being the second fastest marathon I've run.
Mm.
But I still don't think it was a good idea. It was about 3 hours, 39 or 40 minutes,
Wow.
about that. So I was also more kind of, I guess, more choked because my PB was about 3:38. So I was just behind it. I thought I should have pushed more. But then it got worse because during the run, they had some like chocolates for us to eat. And that was all that was going into my system. So my stomach was starting to feel not good already. And then our group went to an all-you-can-eat Korean buffet after the marathon. And if you've ever had a long, even just a normal long run, but especially a marathon for many people like myself, you just can't eat right away. The appetite just doesn't come up right away. But I thought I would fix that. And if you ever tried extended fasting, after typically after more than 24 hours, you do not want to start with a large meal. You want to ease into that, give your stomach some time to get used to the world of the eating again. And I did none of that. And more painful than the marathon was sitting in that restaurant, just thinking, oh, what have I done? What have I done? And everyone talking, and I have no idea what we talked about, but sitting there for almost an hour just in pain.
First question, why were you fasting?
It's a weird thing. I can't remember. I've been curious about, people say there's some benefits, blah, blah. So I remember I was experimenting with it here and there, not on a regular schedule. A couple of times I guess I had a transfer from my bank in Canada to Korea, get there late, and you know what? I'll save money. Let's live frugal and just try this fasting thing. Not how you should do it, but that might have been the reason. I think I had enough cash in my house if I really looked, but I thought, no, I'm going to save money by just not eating for a day. And not a good idea.
Especially before a marathon.
Yeah. I guess at that point I thought it would be good training mentally, which I guess it was. I've learned a lot.
Lessons learned with this one. Wow, I don't even know what my next question is. Too many questions.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
So what was your
apologize.
big takeaway from this marathon?
Yes, my big takeaway is to get takeaway the night before and enjoy the food. Yes, so yeah, not too much food right before, not no food. Maybe if I didn't try and run very fast as well, it would have been better. Who knows? But yeah, definitely fuel, get nutrition in for your runs is something I strongly.
Mm. I'm surprised that you actually got such a good time. That's not where I was expecting the story to go. I thought you were going to say, I started off wanting to get a PB, but then after 20 kilometers, my body just started falling apart and I scrapped that plan. But you actually ended with your second best time.
I was kind of lucky now I think about it. If it was 50 kilometers, I would have definitely crashed.
Yeah. And after running a marathon, that's one thing I've noticed too, that you can't really eat a full meal. Just kind of weird because you just burn like 3,000 calories, right? So I guess your
Yeah.
body prioritizes rest. They'll have like a little bit of food and then, yeah, maybe like some fruit or something like that, or like some rice, but I really can't eat something right away. And then I'll go sleep for, I don't know, an hour or two and then get up and then I'll start to get hungry, but not super hungry,
Oh, okay.
like
Interesting.
pretty
For
normal
me,
hungry.
yeah,
How
that's
about you?
good. Yeah, I think after I take a nap, that's when I really get hungry. Or
Yeah.
not hungry, but I can just fit a lot in. It just keeps going in, even though I'm not hungry.
Okay. It's more mechanical at that point.
Yeah.
Okay, my next
Anyways.
one actually takes place in Seoul. There was one time I was in Seoul and I decided to go for a long run. I think I was gonna do a solo marathon. I didn't quite get that far because I didn't bring water. And I had just come from Japan where there are vending machines everywhere. You don't need to bring water at all. You could just buy water. There are random vending machines in really odd places where you wouldn't expect anybody to buy a drink, but they're there. And I quickly realized that I wasn't in Japan any longer and was very thirsty. So I cut that short and made it back. I think I had to go like an hour or an hour and a half wishing I had water before I got back to civilization. Uh, I don't think I brought any card with me either. So I wasn't able to just go to a, like JS25 convenience store or anything. It was a water fountain that I found. Yeah, so too little planning. Definitely should have brought
Right.
water.
And so in Japan, is there a way to pay without having your card? Or was that just you just
Coins.
forgot the card? Oh, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
So I guess I could have used cash at a convenience store. I forget what exactly I had on me, but it was definitely too much of an impromptu plan. Always bring
That,
water, folks.
that makes sense. Yes. Do you have a recommended water for your runs?
Free.
Yes, that is the right answer.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll usually just bring tap water or whatever. And then my water bladder is pretty good and just holds normal water. But don't put like energy drinks in your water bladder because then you'll never be able to wash the taste out of
Mine still tastes like pickles. From
it.
another experiment. Yeah, yes, I know exactly what you
And
mean.
that's not even on that list. That's how many of these stories you have.
Yeah, it's made a lot of fails. That's a recent one too. Anyways,
What's your next one?
yes, my next one is also something again I do not recommend even thinking about trying this, but I did a marathon after an all-nighter of no sleep. Um, yeah, so it was in the winter, already cold. It was Saturday night. I had a concert. I played my bassoon with this orchestra group as I was just a guest there, so I don't know them very well. Not people I can see again. So afterwards, there's always a quick like go to barbecue, eat some food. Then people say, let's go to round two, and then round three, round four. And I guess quite often I do partake where we end up staying up till the first train in the morning. But this time I said absolutely no. I have a marathon tomorrow, and between the end of the first round, I guess, and the second place, I didn't get to say goodbye to some people. So I said I'll go say goodbye at the restaurant, just to say goodbye, and I'll leave, catch the last train. And they said, oh, just a little bit longer, just a bit a little longer. And the next thing I know, I stayed up all night having fun. Went to like karaoke, just ate food, ate lots of food. And yeah, suddenly it was time for the first train. I got on it back to my house, which almost took an hour. Maybe I did sleep 2 or 3 minutes on the train. I can't remember. But I got to my house. I was in like a suit. I put my instrument down, changed from a suit into my marathon clothes, grabbed my dinosaur costume, and left the house right away. Got to the start line, and as you can imagine, that was very painful. Um, Usually, as a dinosaur, I'm very positive and optimistic, but I'm
Mm.
someone when I don't get enough sleep, I'm a bit more grumpy. And yeah, so I remember one person he kept was asking the same question a bit too much, and I didn't get mad at him, but I remember not being a very positive dinosaur that day. I was a little bit pessimistic.
Yes, I am a dinosaur. How many times do I have to tell you?
Oh, yes, my family is extinct. Thank you very much.
And you don't really drink, do you?
Wait, so I guess I should mention, maybe this can turn into another story for another time, but I only drink water. So no juice, no alcohol, no milk, no milk, no milk, no any of that. Even when I have like protein shakes, I take the protein dry and then drink water. I'm a weird person.
Mm. Okay, so definitely no alcohol,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and that would probably make it even worse. Yeah,
Great.
you should
Yes, that's a good point.
definitely never drink, especially excessively before a race or any kind
Yeah,
of long run. Yeah, just not a good idea.
I
Didn't
agree
sit
with
well.
that.
And when did you start to crash? Like, what was the hardest part of this
Oh,
all-nighter marathon?
this was very early on. I just never felt it from the beginning. Um, yeah, I remember my friend said, "Let's run together," and I know my friend within the first kilometer, I just never saw my friend again, and it was tough. So it was quite early on. It felt like the whole marathon was a crash, not a horrible crash, but definitely
Mm.
uncomfortable, like a gradual crash in slow motion for
That
more than
does not
five
sound
hours.
fun. My next one is a little bit related to that, but not quite as bad. I decided to do my first full marathon in the middle of the night. So this one was at 1 a.m. and I hadn't slept at all. I didn't really know what to expect, right? Because it's my first time. And I was expecting it to be hard and I was expecting to maybe get a little bit of sleep. I tried at around 9 p.m., but didn't get a single second. And then it started off all right. Like the first few hours, we're at 1 a.m. up until like 4 or 5. Yeah, and then the last 10K, I just started to crash really bad. Like it's 6 in the morning. I've been running for 5 hours, haven't slept, and not really in marathon shape. My quads were just trashed after that. And then, yeah, I went back and usually I don't sleep on my back. Like it's pretty rare. I'll usually sleep on my side or on my stomach. But that was one night where I just went back and just slept on my back because it just was totally crashed. Yeah, so that's my third one. Doing my first full marathon in the middle of the night without any sleep.
And had you been training like any runs late at night before that, or was it your first run at all late at night?
Definitely not in the middle of the night. I've been doing all kinds of distances and pretty consistently at that time, maybe only like 40 kilometers a week, doing a little bit of just starting to do strength training for my legs. So getting there, and I still don't regret doing it. Uh, mm, Maybe I should have done one in the daytime first, so I wouldn't have been all those problems all at once. Yeah, it was still fun.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, congratulations. And if you do another one at that time again, what would you recommend for when to sleep
I
or
don't
if
really
to
know
sleep?
about those. Like maybe sleep in the afternoon as much as you can because I can't really sleep at 8 or 9 and then get up again. Like I just won't fall asleep, but I can
Right.
sleep in the afternoon, like after lunchtime. So just maybe not do anything for the whole afternoon, just kind of rest.
Mhm.
Yeah, like not go out, not do any work. Maybe that would have helped.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good idea to remember. I'll keep track because I don't have experience with late night runs yet, but I'll try to avoid that same fate.
Didn't you do a
That's
midnight
great.
one
And
in Vietnam?
oh, well, actually, I did sleep before. It called midnight,
Mm.
but the marathon started later, so it wasn't actually midnight. It was more 1 a.m. So I guess.
Yeah.
I guess that is close, but I did sleep before,
Oh, how were
just
you
from
able to
jet
sleep?
lag. I guess I got there the day before, so with jet lag time difference, it didn't feel like midnight.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
You got there from Korea or from somewhere else?
from Korea. Not a big time difference, but so for me, it was like 3 a.m., which is regular marathon start time in Vietnam.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, that's one solution.
But yes, but my next one is related to, I guess, clothing issues or equipment issues. This is my third official marathon. I think I mentioned I had an accidental one before that. Actually, no, sorry, my second official marathon. So this is the Seoul International Marathon. I'm very new to running at this point. And yeah, I decided to, as usual, run it in a dinosaur costume. I had been in Korea for about 6 months at this point, and I thought I should probably buy some new shoes before this first run. And shoe sizes are different in Korea. In Canada, I'm a size 12. And I got to Korea and it's like different in the hundreds. Turns out I'm a size 300 in Korea. I didn't know that. So I went to a shoe store and I tried on a size 240. And I was like, oh, this is way too small. It really hurt. He let me run up and down the street and it's too small. So then I tried a 270, which felt so much better. I thought, oh, this is great. This is the one. And just by, I guess, relative to the 240, of course it felt good, but it was still way too small. So I didn't know that at the time. And now it's a few days before the marathon, and I decided it's probably time to break in these shoes. So I tried to go for a run after 5 kilometers. It just hurt so much I couldn't wear the shoes. And I actually took them off and walked home in my socks. So I thought, what can I do? How do I run a full marathon in this? And I decided to just wear two pairs of socks and no shoes. And now I like a lot of barefoot running. And I had worn some five fingers for shorter races before, but this was a new level for me. And it's all on the road, on the street where cars normally drive in this whole marathon. And yeah, I remember having two pairs of socks, and by about 21 kilometers, there were starting to be holes that went through both pairs. And on top of that, I was in my dinosaur costume, and something was wrong inside. It ripped, so it was slipping down, kind of like a belt that's too loose. So kind of like holding a belt up the whole time. I had to have my hands on my waist. I couldn't do the arm swing or anything, and just like shuffling along like that. It was really uncomfortable, like a penguin in a dinosaur suit. And yeah, at the 21-kilometer mark, I remember I hit a new low in marathon running where the soles of my feet hurt so much. I took gloves that a runner had discarded. They were running, it got hot, so they threw their gloves on the ground, and I put those on my feet. And I was in a dinosaur costume with these like flappy fingers just flapping around every step as the stranger's sweaty gloves were on my feet. And that was my second marathon.
No questions. That's all totally reasonable.
Yep. And next year I did it again. Didn't learn.
With gloves on your feet, of course.
Actually, I put tape on them, electrical tape. I don't know why, but that's another mistake.
Okay. Wow.
Yes.
That's on your short list, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Mine is doing my first trail run with running shoes and not trail running shoes. I had like
Mm.
these, I forget what brand they were, I think Asics, where the sole was like kind of like marshmallow, like really puffy. And that's not the kind of shoe that you want for trail running. You don't want to be bouncing around on the trail. And the rocks were really loose, and those shoes made it through, but they were like really uh, colored from the dirt, kind of like a reddish brown soil that they have there. So the shoes were all stained, and I had to get rid of them after that because they just looked like like I had been homeless or something. Yeah, so definitely should have gotten the right shoes and maybe do some trail running on my own before joining a half marathon.
Valid. And have you ever tried the opposite of running a long time on the road in trail shoes?
I did a half marathon like on a normal running track pretty recently with trail running shoes, and yeah, they were a bit sore. Like my feet were a bit sore from the shoes because they're quite stiff, right? Why do you have another fail story about that?
No, not yet, but I'm sure one day I will.
Okay, that's on my list.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right.
Oh, and I think we're at your ultimate fail.
Yes, my biggest fail yet was pretty recent, about a year and a half ago. So, well, just over a year ago. Anyways, I briefly mentioned it in another episode where I wore my Vibram Five Fingers to a 100-kilometer trail run through the mountains on Jeju Island in South Korea. Um, there are many reasons this was a fail. One of which is these are not the trail running shoes made by Vibram. These were designed for use in the gym, so they're even more thin. They're not meant to be running anywhere, let alone 100 kilometers in the mountains. And so I thought I'd wear them as a joke, or I brought them maybe halfway through. I'd switch. I had some plan like that, but before the race, I met the manager of the Vibram store in Korea, and I thought, you know what? Just for you, I'm going to wear these the whole time. Bad decision. So they're very thin, and on Jeju Island, in the second half of that race especially, there's lots of really hard, sharp lava rocks, and every step hurts already. But on top of that, what moving past that, what really, really, really hurt is each toe was separate, and as I was going up the mountain, about 42 kilometers in, I slipped and my foot hit a tree. And since each toe is separate, it only hit my pinky toe. So the entire force of me slipping while going up went straight into the pinky toe of this tree. And in that moment, I knew, oh, that's broken. That's bad. And it was, I guess I still had to go over the highest mountain in Korea before getting to the next aid station or seeing anyone. And it was tough. So adrenaline, I made it to the top and I started to cramp up. All the energy in my body disappeared just trying to deal with that pain. And I never get cramps like that, but it was bad. And I didn't have enough water. So it was raining as well. It rained earlier. So I actually went to leaves and I was like putting my tongue under and trying to get water so I would cramp less from the pain of this broken toe. And on the way down, it was so bad I decided to quit, but it was getting dark and no one could help me. So I just made it to the aid station and I thought, you know what, let's just go, which is stupid. So I grabbed a stick off the road and I just hiked my way with a stick for the remaining 40 kilometers. So with a broken toe, I went about 20 hours with a stick to finish this race. And as soon as I finished, took off those shoes and just threw them in the garbage. And that's it.
You should have mailed them back to the manager. These are
Yeah, sure.
faulty. I want my money back, sir.
Yes.
My ultimate fail so far, I like how he added that. It's like on The
Oh, yeah.
Simpsons when Bart is like, oh, this is the worst day of my life. And then Homer says to him, no, son, it's the worst day of your life so far.
Yes. Very true.
My biggest mistake so far was for some reason I decided to do a full solo marathon on Boracay Beach in the Philippines in the scorching heat with nothing on my feet. The
Mm.
pads of my feet were pretty busted up from like all the seashells and the pebbles and everything like that. But that was nothing compared to the sunburn I had on the tops of my feet for about 3 days after that. Well, it eventually turned into blisters. And you know how sometimes people in movies or whatever say, I'm going to bust you up so bad you'll be peeing sitting down. That's how bad it was. I couldn't stand for more than 5 seconds. So I had to pee sitting down. And the Airbnb I was staying in was so ghetto that the toilet didn't even have a seat. So I have a very vivid memory of that toilet. So how I could have, I guess, not done that dumb thing. So one of the stupidest things I've ever done is wear barefoot shoes or even water shoes, or put something on the tops of my feet to prevent that from happening. Other than that, the beach is beautiful. It's beautiful for running. It's about 3.5 kilometers from end to end. So 42K was 7 laps there and back. So the running part was great. It was just the aftermath that I really didn't appreciate. I suffered the
How long
consequences
was
of
it?
my actions.
uh, How long was it before you could put on socks or shoes normally?
It's the Philippines, so they don't really wear socks there.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, probably the fourth day.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
that's
bad. Okay, those are our running fails so far. As of 2025, we hope to have lots more of those to entertain you.
Yes, just for you. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, and we don't like doing this kind of thing, but they make
Yeah,
really good stories, so that's why we do it. We're not dumb or
yeah,
anything.
exactly. If you subscribe, we'll do some more foolish things.